The network isn't.
It's not working.
Have we told her to talk? That's it.
Coco, we're live
Sorry?
We are
on the
live.
broadcast.
We're live, okay.
I want to make sure everybody's sound is off. Put off your mute, mute yourself.
We're live. Please proceed, Coco.
Good morning. My name is Coco Kujo. I'm with the Graça Machel Trust as the technical advisor to the Women's Economic and Social Advancement Program. Welcome to the Absa Graça Machel Trust webinar series to support entrepreneurs through this very challenging times of COVID-19. We have a short video from Absa before we proceed. Shall we have the video, please?
Just proceed.
Okay. I don't think the video is ready yet, but a little bit about this session is a very important one for everybody who aspires to be very successful in leadership, is how we lead with emotional intelligence. Technical skills will take us so far and no further. And so we want to be able in this session to also bring this notion of emotional intelligence to help us lead in this time. A little bit about the Trust. We're a Pan-African organization with a mission of a nurturing and caring society that values social justice. Our mission is to amplify women's movements, influence governance, and promote women's contribution and leadership in economic, social, and political development of Africa. We also advocate for the protection of children's rights and dignity. And with that, I want to hand over to our speaker for the opening remarks to set the tone for the session, Ms. Mumbi Kahindo. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you very much, Coco. Good morning, everyone. It's so wonderful to see that we have over 120 of our partners who've joined us for this particular session. I think a very important session. My name, as Coco has said, is Mumbi Kahindo. I head the leadership development and learning for Absa regional operations. Those are all our markets outside South Africa. And it is a joy for me to actually just join this session that talks about a topic that is close to us when we are talking about leadership development, especially in a pandemic environment that we find ourselves. So it is our hope that as you are facing in the different circumstances you find yourself, that you continue to stay safe. We do pray that you are well, and so are your families. I think that's the first place where we start off, just making sure that every one of us are taking individual responsibility to do what we can do, but also supporting the environments and the communities that we are in our neighborhoods, so that we can all see how we ride this wave to the very end. At Absa, we have partnered with you over this pandemic. We do recognize that as business community, especially the SME markets, you continue to face these and challenges in a very personal way, finding yourself in uncharted environments and trying to maneuver as best as you can. So we've tried our very best to find out where do we meet you in trying to make sure that you cope with the effects of the pandemic. So SMEs customers, we have engaged to make sure that you are staying in a place where you find that you can continue. We have been equipping you with information. We have been partnering with you, trying to make sure that we provide with you the support, the financial support that you may need at this time, because we believe that in good times and bad times as a brand, we are partners and we will ride this together. It's important that you stay afloat, that we find a way in which you can manage even in these difficult times. In the past 2 months, we have hosted 7 successful webinars. Wow, that's impressive, I have to say. Just walking with you with the trust, making sure that as you take your business online, because that's one of the platforms that you're having to deal with. We have spoken about managing financial resources during a pandemic. We've spoken about business continuity planning. How do you do that? We've also talked to you about how you balance your work and your life on an ongoing basis. And I know that the last session that was held was on mental illness. So we continue to engage you, but we also continue to build your capability so that you can become a more abled, more enabled individual, very empowered person during this pandemic for your own health and for your community, but also for your business. So we do know that many of you continue to join because you find value in these sessions, and we are looking forward to working with you till the end. I want to just talk about briefly about today's session that's very close to me, as I said, in terms of leading with emotional intelligence. One of the things that's come out, the research that has been done in the last 2 or so months does demonstrate that one of the biggest and the most important capability and competence for leaders at this time is empathy. How do you lead with empathy as an SME leader? How do you show up in your business, in interacting with your customers, in interacting with your community from a place of empathy? So this timely conversation that we are having today on emotional intelligence actually speaks to things that you can apply today because they are relevant. My hope as you get into this is that you actually have a pen and a paper, because I know that you will take out some nuggets, some very practical things and ideas that you can actually apply immediately after this session in terms of emotional intelligence and in terms of leading with empathy, which I think is one of the things that we find that we have to apply on an ongoing basis. So a big welcome to everyone. Please feel that you can participate with us and that you can continue this conversation with us, both on this platform, on our online platforms, to start a conversation around how do we lead with emotional intelligence, and specifically around how you are showing up with empathy in today's world. So thank you very much, and looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you, Mumbi, for those words of encouragement to set us up and get us going. I will just kick off with a little bit of housekeeping rules. Just for your information, as participants, you will be muted throughout the session. Today's webinar is being recorded, and you'll be able to share a link with you after the event is complete. We welcome you to visit the content yourself and share it with colleagues. We also invite your comments and questions. Please look out for the Q&A chat box on your screen. If you think of a question for the speaker at any point, just type it in there and we will read it out later. Questions and answers session will be held at the end of the presentation. So thank you for being here, and we look forward to a very productive session with you just about to start. So the topic of emotional intelligence, as Mumbi has said, is really about how do we strengthen our empathy, how do we build our confidence and resilience using emotions to be able to navigate this time. It is said that we experience 400 emotions in a day. And depending on our state of being and wellness, our emotions will help us win or defeat us in achievement of our goals and capability to lead well. Many people are appointed into the management and leadership position without adequate preparation for it. And I would imagine as entrepreneurs, all we want to do is make money. We don't really think about how we're going to lead our people to get the results that we want. But it is said to be a very key part of this role of leading businesses, is that we also build our ability to lead well so that we can motivate our people to go with us. I think it's very clear now also that our technical capability would take us so far and no further. The command and control approach, which has been traditional in the workplace for a long time, is also gone, especially with our younger generation. They don't do this and do that. They will ask you why. So we've got to be able to also be inspirational for our young generation to go with us. Leadership training is growing, and especially in enhancing our emotional acumen as it increases our ability to work with teams, manage stress, deliver feedback, and collaborate with others. So it's become a discourse that I think is really important. And I think most people go to leadership programs will come back to this issue of emotional. How do we enhance your sensitivity to emotional intelligence? And leaders also set the tone for organization. If they lack emotional intelligence, it could have serious consequences and resulting in lower employee engagement, and even a high turnover rate. We believe emotional intelligence is a critical skill for leaders to be able to understand and manage themselves, effectively communicate, take key decisions, and motivate and inspire teams. So here with us is our panelists who have been at this game for a very long time to help us and educate us about how we can. I think it's a journey. It's never ending. We will start somewhere and we always continue to learn, because emotions are a very complex system of the human condition. And so we hope that at least we will get some strong strategies and tools that will help us to start this journey if we haven't, and to do it better so that we can lead well. I will introduce the speakers in turn when they're about to speak. But overall, let me introduce the panelists very quickly. We have Mucha Mlingo. Mucha is a founder and lead change maker at PTS Africa. We also have Dr. Stanley Karanja, who is a management consultant, trainer, speaker at Stan Consulting Group. And then we have our Absa executive director, who is in business banking, Elizabeth Wassuna. So welcome to you, our panelists. Thank you for what you are here to do with us. I'm going to introduce Mucha very quickly so that she can start the presentation on where we start with emotional intelligence, the concepts around that. Mucha is a self-professed emotional intelligence fanatic. Mucha is on a mission to transform Africa. Mucha believes that individuals, communities, and organizations can leverage the scientifically based skill of emotional intelligence to increase effectiveness, improve well-being, and strengthen relationships and improve quality of life. Mucha is passionate about empowering people to take ownership of positive future. I like one quote that she has in her profile. Emotions drive behavior. EQ is about pointing them in the right direction. So with that, Mucha, we have a couple of questions for you to do your presentation on. And the questions are broadly around, what is emotional intelligence? Why does it matter in today's leadership discourse? And what are the benefits of EQ, and what are the obstacles to developing EQ in leadership? So without much ado, over to you, Mucha, and thank you for being here. Andia? I can't hear Mucha.
Fanatic. I am truly a fanatic in all sense of the word. So I'm always happy to have a conversation about emotional intelligence. When we started the year, this was the year of amazing expectations. I recall very clearly that 2020, the trending hashtag was 20plenty. This was going to be the year that we all achieved the goals that we had set out for ourselves. This was the year that we were going to achieve great things. And then, what happened? Coronavirus arrived. And what it has done is it has, for very many of us, upended all the plans that we had for the year. And so the first question I want to ask as we kick off this session is I want you to cast your mind back over the months that we have been on lockdown, the months that we have been on some version of lockdown, depending on where you are tuning in from. Are any of these emotions, or do any of these emotions describe how you have been feeling? I know that I can say that I have felt very many of these emotions. I have felt extremely overwhelmed as I endeavor to run my business. I have felt fear about the future of my business. I have been angry. I have been irritable. And I think that my family would testify to that fact. And yes, I have been withdrawn. There's been days where I've just wanted to go back to sleep and cover my head with the blankets. I'm here to tell you that those feelings are very normal. As a matter of fact, those feelings are actually helpful. My name is Mucha Mlingo, as you've heard. I'm an emotional intelligence practitioner, an emotional intelligence coach. And as you heard when Coco was introducing me, I am an emotional intelligence fanatic. Why is that? Because I know and I believe that the learnable skill of emotional intelligence actually will make the difference between success and failure in your leadership journey. Of this, I am sure. And I'm sure not just because of my experience working as I have been in the space of emotional intelligence for the last 4 or 5 years. I'm sure of this because of the data that is readily available out there. The data that says that individuals who are high in emotional intelligence are more successful. They are more effective as leaders, as they run businesses. They build stronger and better relationships with their team members, with customers, with vendors. They actually have better quality of life and well-being, which ultimately results in being even more effective. According to a study done by TalentSmart, emotional intelligence is the strongest predictor of performance, explaining over 58% of success. Workers are 400% less likely to leave when they are led by a leader with high emotional intelligence. That is a study published by the Initiative One Leadership Institute. There is an increase in engagement and alignment to the organization's vision when EQ is higher across the leadership team. Study done by 6 Seconds. And organizational performance is positively correlated with emotional intelligence scores of leaders. That's quite profound. Positively correlated with the emotional intelligence scores of leaders. What does that mean for you as a leader? What does that mean for you as the person who is driving the vision of the SME, that you are associated with. What it means is that if you are low in emotional intelligence, you are the problem. What is it that emotional intelligence does for leaders? Well, the first thing is leaders who are high in emotional intelligence are more self-aware. I know that we have all interacted with individuals who appear in the office, and there are days where you kind of look at them trying to gauge how it's going to be today. And if they walk past everyone, maybe to their office or to their desk, and they don't say hello, you know it's going to be a bad day, right? We all know leaders like that, don't we? And then another day they come in and they greet everyone. Good morning. How are you? How was the weekend? And you know, oh, today's going to be a good day. Today's the day to ask for leave approval. Today's the day to ask if you can work from home. Leaders like that are lacking in self-awareness. And so those kind of leaders are driven by their emotions without even realizing it. It's as though they have someone in the driver's seat and they have no idea where this driver is taking them. When leaders have high emotional intelligence, they develop greater self-awareness. When leaders are high in self-awareness, they are able to have heightened emotional flexibility. What does that mean? Emotional flexibility is your ability to move out of what you're feeling into where you need or where you need to go. One of the things that I say repeatedly is emotions are data. When I started, I talked about some of the feelings that you've been feeling. And I said that those feelings are very normal. As a matter of fact, those feelings are insight. Those feelings are helpful. And that's because emotions are data. We have been taught and have believed for the longest time that emotions are good and emotions are bad. Emotions are not positive or negative. They are just information. When you're feeling overwhelmed, it's information. It's like the gas light that comes out in your car. It's to let you know that you're running out of fuel. And when you have that information, you're able to use it and utilize it. And so leaders who are high in emotional intelligence develop heightened emotional flexibility, the ability to navigate through your emotions, to understand that, yes, I feel this way, but I need to move forward anyway. Leaders who are high in emotional intelligence are more effective at communicating, because really at the heart of communication is your ability to connect with those you're communicating with, to connect with those in your team, to connect with those you are leading, to connect with your customers. When Coco started, or at the beginning, there was this conversation about the importance of empathy. Leaders who are high in emotional intelligence have greater empathy, and that too contributes to their ability to communicate. Leaders who are high in emotional intelligence are able to bring together a unified vision and enhance teamwork. One of the statistics I shared is the idea that when leaders are high in emotional intelligence, they're able to drive greater engagement. The reality is, as you lead, really and truly, a big part of your work is getting others to do. It's getting others to buy in. It's getting others to believe in that vision and work towards that vision. It's getting them to give you of their discretionary effort. You're only going to get that when you are high in emotional intelligence, when you're able to connect at the heart level, not just at the head level. And ultimately, all of this will mean that you will have stronger client relationships. Who doesn't want stronger client relationships? The reality is we find ourselves in a very difficult situation. And I believe that those SMEs that are going to be able to navigate this and thrive are those who leverage emotional intelligence. And it must begin at the top. It must begin with you. Because the reality is that if you are not exercising emotional intelligence, demonstrating emotional intelligence, then it's unlikely that the rest of the team will be able to do that. So that is why EQ is really important. All right, so I don't have a lot of time. I can't leave you with this idea of why it's important and potentially what it is without telling you how you can develop it. My esteemed fellow panelist, Dr. Stanley Karanja, will go a little deeper and expand into the how of emotional intelligence. But what I want to share is specifically about developing self-awareness. If you've read any EQ books, you will know that self-awareness is one of the pinnacles of emotional intelligence. As a matter of fact, I believe that self-awareness is a leadership superpower. And yet so many leaders have a serious lack of self-awareness. So how can you develop self-awareness? Let me share 3 ways that you can develop greater self-awareness as a leader. The first one is this: go deeper. Be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. Stop ignoring what you're feeling. Don't believe the lie that tells you that you must leave emotions at the door. Don't believe the lie that tells you that your emotions are not relevant. Emotions drive behavior, whether you are aware of it or not. So get in touch with what you are feeling. Practice the habit of self-reflection. Tune in with yourself regularly and ask yourself, how am I feeling? A habit that I recommend to all leaders is the habit of tuning in with yourself at least once every day. At the end of the day, reflect on your day. As you reflect on the choices you've made, reflect on how you have felt as well. The second tip: you cannot give what you do not have. And so you must practice self-care. The reality is you need to understand what it is that replenishes you, what it is that enables you to be able to give of this heart that we're talking about. Emotional intelligence is about being smart with your feelings, understanding that they are data. For you to be able to do this, you need to understand yourself and you need to understand how you can replenish so that you're able to give of what you have. Another part of replenishing is also knowing what your triggers are. So what depletes you as a leader? So know what depletes you and know what you can use to replenish. And then lastly, be open to feedback. Don't allow your ego to be the reason why your organization is failing to thrive. Don't just say that you're open to feedback. Demonstrate it. Seek it. Make your organization the kind of environment where people know that you are so open to feedback because you really want to learn and understand yourself better. There's a part of you that you don't see, that only others see. Allow your people, everyone, not just those close to you, not just those you like, allow your people to be able to freely tell you how you are doing. And when you do those 3 things, develop the habit of introspection, understand what you can do to replenish and understand what your triggers are, and be open to feedback. You will be on the journey towards developing greater emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is really a skill that is essential. And if you ever felt or you ever thought that emotional intelligence was a nice to have, I want to tell you today that emotional intelligence is a must have if you are going to drive the business in the direction that you would like it to go. If you are going to recover from the beating that we have received from this pandemic, you're going to have to dig deep and you're going to have to leverage emotional intelligence. On that, I want to hand back over to Coco. Thank you so much for spending those few moments with me as I shared why emotional intelligence truly is a game changer for those in leadership. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mucha. I am definitely inspired. I love that you say really our emotions are like a gauge. The same way we fill our petrol tanks when it's going out of fuel. How do we find and use that intelligence to top up and do the necessary to make sure that we're running efficiently? So thank you so much for that. We're going to now go to Dr. Stanley Karanja, who is an experienced trainer, management consultant and marketer with 20 years experience, well-versed with both strategic and operational aspects. He has often undertaken continuous learning, training to enhance his skills, and his enormous experience in people, organizational development and culture, and customer, shoppers, and consumer behavior, as well as public and private sector partnerships. Dr. Karanja, I think what Mucha has done is prepare us on the notion of what is the value of it, what it looks like. But we know that, I mean, some of us may know some of these things, but actually getting the handle of our emotions is so challenging. How do we become the leader who is agile in the emotion, they're able to regulate themselves, and they're able to do the right things at the right time? And with that, we're going to ask you a couple of questions. In order for us to become smarter with our emotions and in order to become better leaders for ourselves, families, and organizations, I think emotional intelligence, as we're talking about in leadership, is not just for our organizations, but is really about how do we show up also in ourselves, our families, and because that's also a very important place to practice. So the question specifically that we'd like to do is ask you is really, how do we get a handle on it? How do we identify our emotions in order to manage them? What strategies and tools can we use to help us better manage and regulate stressful situations or emotions such as anger, fear, grief, especially in these challenging times? And how do we develop greater optimism to overcome obstacles such as the ones that we're facing right now with the disruption and a lot of uncertainty about what the future looks like? So with that much ado, let me hand over to you, Dr. Karanja, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Coco. It's nice to be here. As already introduced, my name is Dr. Stanley Karanja. I love the discussion of emotional intelligence, and what my co-panelist has really described is it's a must to have, and very, very important in our lives. And I'd wish to go further and show our head, because it matters. In life, and the questions that Coco has asked and that we need to address during this pandemic, the issues of anger, grief, greater optimism, we need to ask ourselves, what is our purpose in life? What is our purpose in life? Even what is our purpose during this pandemic? We must, first of all, have an intention to do good, an intention to do something. And whenever you have that intention, then there are three key things that are very fundamental. One, self-awareness, and it has been described very well by my co-panelist, my co-presenter. Self-awareness, and we are going to dig deeper. How do you get to know yourself? And in this concept of self-awareness, we go further and be able to define leadership. Redefine leadership as into three aspects. That leadership is ability to know thyself. Three things: ability to know thyself, ability to control thyself, and ability to give thyself. Three things. So any leader, and God created human beings as leaders in this world. So you must have those three things. You must know yourself, you must control yourself, and you must give yourself. Knowing, we are going to look at it. How do you get to know yourself shortly? Then controlling is what my co-panelist Mucha is talking about, emotions, and which we are also going to tackle just a bit about it. And then give thyself. We cannot excel if we don't sacrifice. Sacrifice is critical in leadership. Everything that we do we do it good? Do we do it deeper? How do we do it? So come again to the delivery of our purpose in life, self-awareness. When you are able to know yourself, then you can be able to craft something else called self-confidence. How do you build self-confidence? You can only build self-confidence because you know yourself, what are your strengths, your weaknesses, and then you can work on them. When you are able to go beyond self-confidence, then you develop a brand. Then that's what we call as self-efficacy, the self-belief. And that one will help you to be able to be influential in life and to deliver results and to become impactful. So thanks again to Absa Michelle Trust for this great opportunity for us to discuss this great topic. In emotional intelligence, there are 4 clusters, and these clusters are: 1, the human being, you, the individual. You need to know yourself, and after knowing yourself, what do you need to do with yourself? You need to manage yourself. How do you manage yourself? You can only manage what you know. So you need self-accurate assessment. You need emotional self-assessment to know what are the things that trigger my awful behaviors and what are the things that motivate me. Then you can be able to manage them so that you can be able to self-control and be able to deliver trustworthiness with the people that you serve or live with. You also need to be adaptable to situations. Very, very important. And this can come because you know the weaknesses, the opportunities, the threats which are there out in the market. And this does not only happen to individual, as a business person also, in your SME business, in whatever business you're doing, you need to know your business. You need to know the strengths of your business, the weaknesses, where are the opportunities, so that you can be able to manage your business. Unfortunately, many people run business out of copycat system. You saw someone running, you saw somebody selling, there's this, everybody is selling now masks. See somebody selling masks, now you say this is the thing. Ventilators, everybody now, they have become engineers, the guns and all these things. But have you done a self-assessment, a business assessment? Know thyself. If you want to become a business leader, then you can be able to manage. Then you can be able to, having known, you can be able to work on the strengths and be able to be on the driver's seat with that motivation, with that initiative. Then when you know yourself and you're able to manage yourself, that is not enough. In this life, we require one another. That's why we need to know our environment that we live. We need to have organizational awareness. We need to understand our environment. What is the offering there? What are the resources available there? How can we tap them? And then when we know that, then we can be able to manage others and manage the relationships. And that's what we call as relationship management. And that's where, when we go back to our when we go to our head that we were looking, for you to become influential in this world, then it is very important for us to have that intention and to be able to influence so that to become impactful. So having handled that, it's very also important to know when we talk about emotional intelligence, where are we about it? You know, that's first time when I heard the word emotional intelligence, I wondered what is this thing with these big people, they talk about emotional intelligence, we small people cannot understand. Emotional intelligence, it's among the intelligentsia that a human being requires in this life. There are 5 intelligences. 1, we have physical intelligence. You need to take care of your body. You need to eat well. You need to have balanced diet. You need to take exercise. You need to sleep well so that you can be able to manage stress. And this is the biggest challenge that people are having today with this pandemic. You must take care of your physical intelligence, your body, what you are eating, your relaxation, your workouts. Then number 2, mental intelligence. You must continuously read. You must get into webinars, get to learn, get to acquire more knowledge. It builds your confidence, among many other things. Go to school, get more certification, and then that builds confidence and self-care because you're taking care of your mind. Then the third one is where it's seated, the seat of the heart, and that's what we call as emotional intelligence. The purpose of your life, the passions, your drive, what you want to deliver in this life. It sits under the concept of emotional intelligence. And that's why today it's a great opportunity for everyone in business, even in your life, to understand emotional intelligence, that it is about knowing yourself and helping others. Very, very important. And then the next one is the spiritual intelligence. What is spiritual intelligence? When God created us, what shall we live in this world? You as a business person, what are you doing to the society, to the environment? What impact do you have? Very, very important for that. And because we're in business, we can never miss the fifth one, the financial intelligence. How are you taking care of your business? That is also another factor that we need to look into, to be able to continuously grow from one point to the next. What happens when we cannot control emotions or lack of intentionality in what we do? This picture you see there, you'll always be running helter-skelter, you'll not have peace of mind, and life will be unbearable, and even decision making, it will be a big problem. May I further go to a very critical approach on self-management, the competencies that you need to build from physical intelligence, mental intelligence, with emotional intelligence, and to be able to deliver value in this life, even in your business. Behavior self-control. You need to be a person of integrity. You need to have value. You need to be innovative and creativity. You need those tools that can be able to ask yourself today, yourself, your business, in your family, how can we innovate and start living different with the means that we have? How are we going to become creative? And people have embellished this. People have done things that they've never done. Many of the people during this coronavirus time, they have been able to clean their houses, their stores. Now they know how their house looked like. They never had time. We were always running. We were always in a rat race. But at least coronavirus, when we look at the positive side, it gave us a time to reflect again. The initiative, the bias for action, we must be people to do things. Always take a pen and a paper, decide from here to here, this is what I will be able to do. This is what I need to deliver. We must have that achievement drive. Optimism, we must be able to be looking forward, even with this. I was sharing with my colleagues here, and it was very interesting. That's how sometimes people take Kenyans to be resilient, powerful people. Yeah, that even when it's a pandemic, it's a virus somewhere place. Some place it's a pandemic. But when you come to Kenya, we look at it as a business idea. How can we be able to navigate and be able to make best out of it? We can. We need that realistic optimism again, but very important. Be within the values and integrity, which can continuously build our resilience, and we can be able to manage our stresses, be it financial stress, be it emotional stress, be it mental stress, be it physical stress. That's how we're gonna come. But we must take care of all the other competencies, and particularly to build our personality and our agility with intentionality. And going forward that way, we will be able to be very good people. We shall be able to deliver what's called a likable personality. When you go out there, people are always looking forward to do business with you. They are looking forward to be with Absa. They are looking forward to partner with you to become their supplier. And we shall continue, and we shall be able to deliver our goals. Communication, conversation. Even on communication and conversation, do an accurate self-assessment. Do I communicate better? What are my strengths in communication? What are my weaknesses? How can I work on them in business or as an individual? In our family setup, the biggest challenge with families today, which was an advantage again with Corona, people stay together. How are people communicating? Were people just glued to TV and just seeing the news update? How many have been declared? How many have been contacted by the virus and all that? It's very, very good for us to continuously enhance our communication, be it individually, in our family, in various social setup, and even in our business, that we can be able to build interpersonal effectiveness and will become influential in this very world. We cannot forget conflict management. Conflict management, again, when you know yourself, you can be able to control, you can be able to work with people, and that's fundamental in business. You can even know when you don't have money. Now, what do I need to do? The money that I'm getting in business, am I using it rightful for the purpose of the business? If it's a new opportunity, do I even document this is the opportunity, and how can I deliver it? We must catalyze change. We must be change makers. And I like my panelist Mucha said, I'm a game changer. You must be a game changer in everything that you're doing, individually, in your home, in your family, social setups, even on the streets. You meet some people not wearing masks or putting the masks as if they have become the new beards. It's very interesting to be able to see. You must be a game changer to be able to have a greater environment. Let's continue building bonds, teamwork, and collaboration. You cannot live on an island. We need one another, different skills. And again, as a leader, you cannot be a leader, even in your business, if you are not going to coach and mentor other people so that we can help one another. The skills that I have as Dr. Stanley Karanja, I have volunteered in this world to be able to coach more, to be able to mentor the younger, and sometimes also vice versa, the older, so that we can be able to have a better world. That's the value. That's the spiritual intelligence that we look to live when I exit, and building trust. What you say, do you do what you say? We must keep track. And with that, we will be able to be great people. Now, talking about emotional intelligence and mental intelligence, remember, you cannot have proper emotional intelligence if you don't take care of your body. That is physical intelligence. You don't continuously engage your mind. You need to continuously read, attend webinars, fantastic webinars like what Absa is providing with Graça Machel Foundation Trust. You must also be able to know the heart, manage with the heart. There is one research that showed that 80% of air crash investigations showed that pilots and co-pilots, the reason that crashes happen, there is always a miscommunication. There is always a problem with how they manage the relationship at the cockpit. Unfortunately, they don't come later in life to explain what happened because they are dead. So manage with your heart. That is where it is seated under emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is not opposite of all the other intelligence. It is triumph. And it's not a triumph. It's all about the heart, the head, the body, and the spirit. When we leave this world, when we exit in our business, when you close in the evening, what have you done? What have you achieved? That is the intersection that we always look, and we will be able to deliver positively in this world. I thank you once again and look forward that you're going to have an intention in this world, that you're going to become influential in this world by knowing yourself, controlling thyself, and giving thyself. You must sacrifice. Where there's no pain, there's no gain. We must work. Give sacrifice. Give sacrifice. Work. Don't just start thinking on how to make quick billions. They will not help you. They will leave you and your generation suffering. Make sure that you are a person of value, business of value, as we are in a bank of value. So thank you once again. All the listeners, the participants, has been a wonderful time being with you. Asante sana. Thank you.
Asante, Dr. Karanja. Thank you very much for giving us the tricks of how to do this emotional intelligence challenge better. We're now going to move on to our next panelist with Elizabeth Wassuna, who is the Business Banking Director of Absa Kenya. Elizabeth, with what Dr. Karanja has said and Mucha has said, you know, we now want to see the application of it. As a beautiful, wonderful director in your organization, how have you applied emotional intelligence? So specifically, because it is important and it trumps sometimes technical skills, emotional intelligence is what we believe will get us here. And sometimes it's said that maybe women are better at it than not. So please share some key lessons on how you have developed your EQ to serve in your leadership role, adapt to the demands and pressure of life and work environment. Because I think being a professional as a woman in an organization like the bank must be quite challenging. So how have you used develop your EQ to be able to navigate the spaces of work and possibly life as well?
Thank you very much, Coco. Much appreciate your introduction. And thank you to the panelists who have really, done a good job in setting the base for this conversation. So really for me, emotional intelligence is a key skill day to day, whether I like it or not. It helps in a lot of the decision making. If it actually influences a lot of the decisions that we make day to day. But what really struck me as I was thinking about what to say in this conversation is a quote that I picked up from the reading. It says, "Emotional intelligence is the difference that makes the difference." It also further says, lack of emotional intelligence is what limits some people from the ability to manage themselves, to manage others, and to manage situations. That in itself really struck me because I realized that without this emotional intelligence, and it's by no means something that you can just pick up and run. It's a journey. You start from somewhere and move. Now, if I look back into my own life in Absa, even as I was developing my career, and I'll try to speak to both. I'll speak a bit about what we've done at Absa, but I'll also speak a bit about what I've done on a personal basis. Growing up, we were brought up to be confident people, to be very aware of what we were saying, how you interacted with people. And, in doing some of these things, we don't even realize that in itself starts the conversations around emotional intelligence. And sometimes, depending on how exposed your parents were, exposed your community were, you got to develop some of these skills more. But for me, being able to manage, first of all, to be very aware of myself, then to be able to manage others, and then to be able to manage situations is something that I do every day. Another quote that really struck me as I was looking through this conversation is, "Emotional intelligence is the key to improving your personal effectiveness. It is the foundation for dealing with impulses." And these are things that, just come on your way without you thinking, you don't have control over those. "Dealing with stresses, responding versus reacting." When you respond to something, it means that you've taken time to think about it even before it happens, as opposed to reacting. And these are some of the things that I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Before I just go into a little deeper about, on my personal basis, I thought it was important maybe to share from an Absa point of view, what has Absa done, as a bank for emotional intelligence? And just to give a brief background as to how we got ourselves into this journey. And the thing about Absa, and I know a majority of you know that we transitioned from a very strong brand, which was Barclays Bank. We had been Barclays for over 150 years. And this meant that, the color, the way we showed up in the environment was very, very structured. And there was a lot of emotional investment in that particular brand. And there was connection to just not on the color, even the emblem, the eagle, it was a real emotional connection there. And so the people, both our customers and our staff, were very connected to these. So when we were transitioning and thinking about transitioning, it became very important that the emotional intelligence piece kicked into the way we talk to our customers, but also in the way we talk to our staff, because your staff are really your key resource. And without them having emotional intelligence of some sort, how are they going to be able to deal with their own self-awareness, the way to manage themselves, the way to manage their social environment, and more so to manage the relationships that they were going to have to deal with with their clients. So some of the things that we have then done and continue to do as Absa is to connect. We have connect sessions. Connect sessions means that we get a chance to speak on a one-on-one. We get a chance to speak in groups. And initially, we had to even manage that because we had to evaluate that every so often to find out where our staff were, where our clients are as we transition the brand. Because if you don't know where you've left your staff or your clients, then emotionally you might be doing, you can't show up in the market. You can't show up well. So our conversations with our staff began way before even the brand change took place. And so we enabled them having a little more intelligence around how they felt and how they showed up. And also how they, what kind of social skills they needed to be able to deal with the scenario they found themselves in the changing environment. It would be quite disruptive. And therefore we moved, initially when we did the analysis, we found a lot of our staff were in the resentment phase because change creates that sort of resentment. And we had to move them because of the information and the interaction, and sell to them the idea of how positive these changes were going to be and what changes were going to, it was required of them, how we wanted them to show up in the market, even changing the color from blue, which is normally a sobering color, to a really passionate red. What did you expect of them? And so emotional intelligence became a basis of our conversations, our trainings for the leaders, for the staff, all staff across board. Even the way we evaluated, you couldn't just come in and say, look, we're going to change you from point A to point B. We're going to make you change from blue to red. We're going to move you from A to B. We had to bring in the emotional intelligence. So that in itself has become a real key in conversations with our staff members. And as we continue, we continue to have sessions, even on and I know you mentioned it, the gender basis. We have the Y experience, we have man caves, we have She Rise. This is a specific programs that deal with gender issues, even in the bank, and even with our staff, and helps them relate to themselves and their family situation, but also helps them to relate with our clients, because we feel that if you understand the gender issues a little better, then you're able to really be present, and you're able to emotionally invest in those relationships better. So other than that, we also have the online trainings, which continue to be there, and these are very engaging with different aspects of the emotional intelligence, and we delve deeper. I think for me, now moving back to myself, the key piece that really I deal with every day is to be self-aware. And when I talk about self-awareness, is to really know why I feel this way, how I can help, how can I be helped, how may I help others, how am I hurting other people, or what am I doing that will hurt or help other people? And in that self-awareness journey, I'll be honest, it's one of those that what really helped me break that particular piece was we went through a profiling conversation, and when you profile yourself, you get to see things that you really don't see ordinarily, because sometimes people are too fearful to tell you, sometimes you ignore them, sometimes you just are oblivious to what people are talking about. And when we went through this self-awareness or self-profiling, it really helped me to start the journey. And this is a thing that I did, I think it must have been over 10, 15 years ago, to get me into that journey. And what I discovered about myself was the way I communicated. Some people would like it, some people didn't like it. And at that point, when I started the journey, it didn't matter, because I thought, let me just be me. Let me just be authentically me. But the truth of the matter is, if you don't know how you affect others with the way you communicate, then chances are, based on your personality, you might be hurting others. You might be injuring people that would otherwise be your teammates. You might be pushing people away, because as opposed to attracting them to yourself, and where I find myself today, it's not about how I work myself, it's about how I work through the teams. So if you're injuring people in the process, if you're pushing people away, if you're not listening, if you don't understand their profiles, if you don't take time to connect with them, then you lose out on the whole opportunity to be a real effective leader. And so for me, self-awareness has become one of those that I normally take my team through, make sure that they understand that their own teams, make sure that they understand how they interact with me, because in that conversation, there are very different conversations that we have in a bank. So there'll be a conversation where I'm connecting with you because I want to know a little bit about your family, which is a more relaxed atmosphere. It could be in the bank, it could be outside, it could be having lunch together, that kind of conversation, just to get to know. How do you want me to give you feedback? What do you normally like me to do? If I'm giving you feedback on your performance, would you prefer that we sat in a room together? Would you prefer that we sat outside the office? Would you prefer that we had it on phone? What do you like to do? Would you mind me to provide you the information upfront? These things help me be able to deal, better with the people that I work with. As you become more self-aware, and as I became more self-aware, it helped me self-manage, because in that self-management is the ability to keep disruptive emotions, the impulse to control. Leaders need to be especially critical of self-management in crisis environments as we find ourselves. So how do you then connect with your people, bring them to where you are, and help drive them to where you want to go in a crisis situation? So self-management is really important, because then it is based on, you have to be able to reassure the people that you work with, and reassure yourself, of course, because, you know, in a crisis environment, you find yourself in sometimes unprecedented environment where, you know, you've never tried some of these things. So you really need to keep your focus as far as that is concerned. The other, of course, that, you know, I felt was, you know, I needed to work on, and I've worked on, and it's a journey, like I've mentioned, is social awareness. How do you interpret others? When they show up, how do you understand them? You know, and this is sometimes with their non-verbal or their verbal, you know, expressions. How do you connect with them? And sometimes it means that you have to ask questions, whether it's to them or the people around them, so that you can better connect. And this particular one is one that even in an organizational level, you find, you know, they're always undercurrents. You know, you can sit in a room and people might be smiling, but there's something going on and you're not aware. Without emotional intelligence, believe me, you will never understand what is going on. You might think, yes, I've got everybody on my side, but when you walk out, everybody is off into their own corners. And so just being socially aware and understanding how to interpret the non-verbal, especially for me, has been a key is a key skill that we continue to develop. And finally, of course, relationship management, which is something that we do every day. It is demanded of in our jobs. It's demanded of my teams. Just the interpersonal skills that allows us to act in ways that motivate and inspire others, and influence and coach and mentor. And so you can see my job is not really about, you know, counting money. It's more about, you know, the social skills. How do you gel a team? How do you bring a team together to be able to deliver, just not for the customers themselves, but also for the shareholders, because there are shareholders behind a bank as ourselves. But also, how do you make sure that the team comes together? You use your strengths, your weaknesses, you know, how do you support each other in being able to deliver at the end of the day? So for me, emotional intelligence is a day-to-day activity. If I didn't have it, or I didn't develop it and to help the team develop it, I don't think we'd be where we are. And as Absa, I think it's a skill that we continue to push as a really focused agenda for us to be able to interact with the environment that we find ourselves. And more so in the COVID environment, we really need to be emotionally aware. We need to have emotional intelligence to be able to navigate this field better. I hope with those few really remarks, I've been able to open up a little bit. I know it's not enough time.
Thank you. Thanks, Elizabeth. I think it's really helpful to see how you're bringing emotional intelligence into the Absa DNA through this restructuring process and decisions you made about. Hello?
Go ahead.
Hello? Elizabeth, sorry. I think,
Yes, I
yeah.
can hear you.
Yeah, okay, great.
Yes, I can hear
so
you
thank
now.
you very much. Thank you for really sharing your nuggets of wisdom with us through your restructuring process, the decision you made about how to embed emotional intelligence as part of the DNA of AXA. I really also value the fact that you shared with us, you know, that, you know, kind of without some deliberate interventions like doing a personality profiling, for instance, you know, being authentic is not enough, because just being ourselves may not necessarily give us, enable us to have the tools to be able to do what it is to do, you know, to not hurt people, to be sensitive, to have the empathy that we need. And that understanding yourself through profiling your personality and also doing this regularly with your team helps everybody understands what, you know, what we're like and what to expect of each other. So thank you very much for going to that level of detail and telling us that. I want to know a little bit about how you build the confidence, but I think it maybe I see from your certainly your journey, as Dr. Karanja has said, and I think Mucha also, a lot of it around, you know, developing mental intelligence is a very important way to develop our emotional intelligence. I think, you know, with your 20 years in Korea and Absa, as you say, you started as a trainee. and then you worked your way up, the different tiers. So I would imagine that a lot of education has come in. But can you tell us a little bit about just that journey and also because, again, I think we're going back to, women building self-confidence, because I'm sure you have a lot of women looking up to you as role models, as your role model. So just a little bit, just maybe a minute to share with us on how you've got to this place where you believe, you've developed the right self-confidence for people to look up to you.
Thank you, Coco. Not always easy to talk about. Started off. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're just breaking up a bit. Please continue.
Okay. So my journey started off way back over 20 years ago with Barclays then, but it by no means ended at Barclays. I did have a chance to work at top tier banks as well, 2 other banks, and I think my journey has really been around of growth and development has been around the kind of mentors and the people that you interact with that support you in able to direct you in the choice of careers, in the way you show up. You've got to have and I think I did mention the fact that coaches and mentors have always been key in being able to develop your career. Sometimes you can't always depend on yourself because you may, and very rarely do people have those skills to be able to deal them on their own accord. But at some point, you need people who can be able to open for you, show you what it means, actually, what does the next step look like? And it's just about the next step. It's where your direction is. Where do you want to go to? So for me, being able to work with Barclays as I left college was really a fantastic opportunity. It showed me the full spectrum of what banking looked like at that particular point. I was able to leave Barclays, as I mentioned, and I worked with 2 other top tier banks because I felt that I needed skills. And these skills were being provided in these new atmospheres. I worked for a local tier 1 bank, and I also worked for a foreign bank as well. I had an opportunity to actually leave the country and work in a different environment. I worked in Malawi, and most people would ask you, why would you work in a place where it doesn't look like home? I have, and it was challenging, but because of the support system that you have, the mentors that you have, they keep you focused. They keep you engaged in what is really important. And for me, it was being able to work, not just the skills that you learned over time, is how am I able to use those skills? And by being able to go into a different environment and be able to interact with people you've never known before, be able to gel with them, it just really reconfirmed to me the fact that I understood my self-awareness. I had a bit of self-management in there. I was socially aware. Is it 100%? Not necessarily, but it's work in progress. And I think most leaders will tell you that these are some of the things that are work in progress, depending on the environment you work with. And of course, relationship management, because as you open yourself out to others, you're able to also, receive and work better. So for me, I can't claim that I had it all, but the mentors and the coaches and the influences I have in my life, the people that I chose to have in my life were really critical, and they continue to support me even as we are today. So that's a bit about the journey.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. We will now take a poll before we go into the questions with participants. Let's take a poll. I think it's going to come on the screen right now, which is really going to help us gauge where we are on this scale of what emotional intelligence means to us. So you see it on the screen. What does emotional intelligence mean to you? Please, we encourage everybody to respond to this, just so that we know where we are with ourselves. We've got another 20 seconds. coming. We're at 62, 63. Okay, and at 66, we're going to just read out the poll. So it means that 67 people have voted, a percentage, 67% of our audience have voted. We're now at 68. And the poll looks like, okay, so we have 78% say they're good at managing my emotion, 50% self-motivation in face of obstacles. We have 71% leading with empathy, which is great. And then we have 63% communicating effectively. And we have 73% recognizing my emotions. I think this looks like a really fantastic poll. So thank you to all of you who have given us your status on the emotional intelligence scale. Thank you. We're now going to go into the questions that we have from the audience. But I think before we go to the questions that we have from the audience quickly, I'd like Mucha, I think from your statement, your quote that says emotions are the, let me just make sure I capture it right. Emotions drive behavior. EQ is about pointing them in the right direction. So I'd like you to just maybe just give us an indication of a scenario where, you know, you're triggered and you need to do that emotional agility, you know, that process of the stimulus, and then we're saying we're not going to react, we're going to respond. So in a situation where you've been triggered, irritated or angered, can you just tell us what that process of regulating our emotions looks like?
Sure, Coco, thanks for that question. I think if you'll allow me to just take a step back as I answer you as well, is a lot of the times our ability to respond rather than react is really governed by our why, by being very clear about what it is you're trying to achieve. So let's go back to your question, where I am triggered in the workplace, perhaps.
Sound?
I'm trying to achieve, when I'm clear,
Okay.
all right, so I'm not sure where you lost me, so maybe I'll just do a rewind.
It's our why, just having our why, understanding our
Okay,
why.
great.
When we're triggered,
All
yeah.
right. So when you're clear about your why, it makes it so much easier to navigate your emotions. Because any change that we do without being clear why we are making that change is not going to be sustainable. So for me, I think the first thing is, what is your why? So I was giving an example of a leader who's triggered in the workplace. Perhaps there's a particular colleague who pushes your buttons, or it's a particular client who pushes your buttons. When you have a very clear why, it helps you to be able to navigate. So for me, the first place to start is your why. And this is the same with your family, right? With your children. Children have a way of being able to push your buttons, and they can get the best out of you or the worst out of you. When you're clear about your why, I have 2 boys, and my why as far as my kids is concerned is I imagine a future where they are adults and we have a strong relationship. And so that helps me in today when they push my buttons. So Coco, I would say first it's your why. When your why is clear, it's pausing. Very few instances in your leadership journey require you to respond immediately. Very few. We have believed this, I'll call it a lie, that when you don't immediately deal with something in front of you, you're showing a sign of weakness. It's not weakness to gather yourself and respond. It actually takes more to respond than react. So pause. Think about what it is that you ultimately want to achieve. Think about the outcome that you ultimately desire. And that pause can take 5 seconds or it can take a day, depending on the matter in front of you. Pause. I'll give a very good example of an incident where you are in a meeting and someone maybe says something that you feel was a little disrespectful, maybe their tone, or you felt that they kind of, somehow you were not happy. And perhaps in the moment, you realize that if you deal with this right now, how you deal with it will not necessarily get you the best outcome. Remember what I said. Very few things in your leadership journey require you to deal with them immediately in that moment. There is absolutely nothing wrong with approaching that individual later and letting them know that you did not appreciate the way that they spoke. A lot of times our ego is what causes us to react. And as a leader, I would say pause. So it's two things, Coco, in answer to your question. Number one, be very clear, be very intentional in all the spaces you are in and have a clear why. Because when your why is clear, you're more likely to be able to do what you should do rather than doing what you feel like doing. Because emotions are very short-term in their nature. So they push you to act now, but that may not be appropriate. So what is your why? And then secondly, practice the art of pausing. And sometimes all it takes is 3 to 5 seconds. I know that everyone listening has had a situation where you almost say something, but by the grace of God, you hold yourself back, right? You bite your tongue or you drink that water. Yes. And then after a few seconds, the need to react has passed, right? So pause. I think those are the things I would say.
Great. Thank you so much. That's very helpful and something that we can apply very, very quickly. So the next question we have is, how do you build your self-awareness without being judgmental? We have a question. How do you build your self-awareness without being judgmental? Dr. Karanja, do you want to take that one?
Okay. Thank you, Coco, thank you. I liked the conversation Elizabeth had, that when you ask the question of how have you made it to be where you are, being the business banking director for Absa. And there is something she said, and also Coco, you later mentioned about personality profiling, self-awareness. We need to engage tools that helps us to know our strengths, our weaknesses, and the opportunities navigate how to be able to deal with them and how to direction of where we want to go, our intentionality. You'll be able to see today we are privy, and I have helped many organizations and many people by not just only getting the feedback from colleagues, feedback from the supervisors, but also getting to tools which helps you to be able to know yourself better. There are tools which are available. We are able to do a personality profiling that helps you as an individual, that you know now, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses. We also help people in business, because in business, again, we talk of 4 facets of business. That is the customer, the financial, the processes, and the people. As an SME, you need to understand your people. You also, first of all, before understanding people, you need to understand yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? So that even when you're employing, you can be able to find the people who have the strength that can complement your weaknesses, and you'll be able to deliver. That is a critical answer I would give, Coco, that let us use tools for personality profiling, then experts, colleagues to do the 360 feedback system, then it helps you to know yourself. And that's what builds leadership, that you are able to get feedback. This is the biggest problem of human beings. They don't want to be told where they're not good at. They want to be appraised all the time, you're doing well. But go to the tools, as Elizabeth had said, that during working with in the corporate world, had been able to get coaches and mentors who had been able not only being judgmental, but again, going through particular tools, be able to know myself. Then when it comes to the next level, you need to know the team profiling. We have tools which will help each member of the team and knowing what they are going to deliver, their mission within the workplace, be able to know what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses. Then you can be able to help develop. Then bring the humanity, the aspect to give feedback. You coach, you mentor, and we will be able to develop self-awareness without being judgmental. And that one is a great leadership journey that shall help individuals. If I'm still, yes,
okay.
You lost me.
Yes, we lost you, but I think there's a related question that it would be good to, whilst you're at it, to answer. There's a lot of questions about where do we find the personality profiling and those tools that you're talking about. Are there any links, maybe before we go, that you put a couple of links maybe for us to go and see how we can investigate some of those tools that you're talking about? Because I think people want to actually have the resource to be able to act and do, say, a personality profiling.
Okay, I think Coco, I can be able to organize and share with you and with Elizabeth, so that the people who have participated can also be able, first of all, they can be able to do one test to know themselves. Then they'll be able to know their strengths and they'll be able to know their weaknesses. Then beyond there, each member of a team does. Then again, there's a tool we make, it's called team dynamics, team profiling, whereby each team member can be able to know, if it's in the customer perspective, the people who are dealing with customers, client relationship management, what are the skills required for them to deliver? There is a research which was done for an organization. It was a big organization in the United Kingdom. And then how they were very good in attracting customers. One only was good in retaining customers. After 3 years, the company went down, it closed. Then the question was, what happened? Then when they asked the consultant, you have been consulting for us, but what happened? He said, there's one time we did a profiling. And you people said, in fact, if we are attracting, we have many customers, we are okay. But remember, there's a skill they did not have and they did not develop. The importance is they needed to have known, out of our 10 managers, 9 are very good in attracting. Only 1 is good in training, customer service. They needed to have trained this one on attracting and these other 9 on retaining. Then the business could have survived. So those skills and tools are available. We thank God where we are in this technological era. And this is what's helping us in what we call as the flying wheel in management, that it will propagate a technology accelerator, which we have, and the culture change. How can we be able now to accommodate each other, to know my strengths? I get to know also your strengths. What are my weaknesses? What are your weaknesses? How do we complement each other? And then we can be able to deliver. And I think that, Coco, as you have asked, I think it's a great opportunity. We can help each participant to be able to do a personality profile, to be able to know themselves. And I think that's something that we can do for our business people and all the people, so that we can be able to go through this journey.
Okay. Thank you so much. As we're coming towards the end of the questions, I think there's 2 critical questions that I'd like to just put out very quickly to Elizabeth, and then the second one is to Mucha. And if you have 40 seconds to respond, please. To Elizabeth, what advice would you have for young leaders in leading their peers and people older than them? Okay, so that is the question for Elizabeth, and then The one that I think would be we would like to put to Mucha is, what is the responsibility in improving emotional intelligence of their leader, right? What is the responsibility of followers in improving the emotional intelligence of their leader? Those are the two questions that we will now take, and then before we start the closing. So we'll start with you, Elizabeth.
Okay, thanks, Coco. It feels like I'm on a 100 meters race here. I'll try and pack in as much as possible. But for me, you know, being able to being a leader, dealing with the older people or younger people, whichever way it goes, for me, the key thing there is self-awareness. You know, you've got to be self-aware to be able to lead, whether it is the older people or younger people, and then also understand who you're leading, because most of the time, if you don't understand the constitute of your team, then you can't be able to connect with them. So if you're leading a team that is older than you, for instance, or more experienced, or more, you know, they tend to, okay, it's the older people. You've got to know how to speak to them. You know how to interact with them. What, you know, what ticks them off? How do you put your things together? What kind of work? The whole, how you present yourself is so critical. And it's the same thing also when you're dealing with much younger people, because those two, you know, they're totally different groups. You've got to know how to connect. So being self-aware is one key thing, but also being able to understand, you know, the people that you're dealing with. And more so, as you interact, sometimes it's also important to be vulnerable. Tell them how you also want to, do, you want to communicate, or how you are. Because in this explaining who you are, your team also is able to connect with you and able to understand where you are. So if you're a younger person dealing with the older team, you know, sometimes when you joke and tell guys, you know, I'm from the younger generation, so therefore I may not dress the way you want me to, but, you know, I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to sit with you on a one-on-one to explain to you why I think the way I think. That connection normally helps you connect better with the older team or the younger team, whichever it is that you're dealing with. So it shouldn't be an issue that you can't deal. It's just sitting down and understanding, you know, letting it be a true communication piece. I hope that's 40 seconds for you, Coco. I really feel like I've run to the end of the race.
Sorry, I think we just want to ask our audience to please bear with us, our participants to bear with us, give us maybe 5 minutes. So with that, Mucha, I think you have 1 minute.
Before I answer this question, just allow me to just go back. I really want to emphasize what Dr. Karanjo said about utilizing the tools. The tools will really give you insight into yourself. And one of the things I like to emphasize with clients when we do our emotional intelligence coaching is actually the tools help you to understand your strengths so that you can actually leverage your strengths. You know, a lot of times we thinking of what I do badly so I can improve it. Actually, what research shows is you are more successful when you leverage your strengths, and then you leverage those who have strengths in your areas of weakness. And I really wanted to emphasize the importance of utilizing tools to be able to do that. Now, what is the responsibility of improving the emotional intelligence of your leader? I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for that one, or at least the answer maybe that you'd like to hear, because there's no way you can improve someone else's emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is something that someone needs to be willing to develop on their own. But here's what you can do. If you find yourself working with a leader who you feel has zero emotional intelligence. So the first thing I would say is model the behavior you want. Model the behavior you want. Do not allow this leader who behaves badly to cause you to behave badly. Model the behavior you want. Their inability to navigate their emotions should not then result in your inability to navigate your emotions. Model the behavior you want, number one. Number two, you need to ensure that you are regularly supplying yourself and filling your emotional bank account, right? Because what happens when we're working with people who drain us, it means you are depleting. So every time you're going into the office, you are being depleted as far as your emotions are concerned. So if you find yourself in such an environment, you're going to have to work twice as much to add a surplus. So what that means is you go into the office already at, you know, plus whatever it is, so that when that person kind of knocks you down a little, they don't take you to minus. All right. So you're going to have to really get into the habit of, and we've talked about self-awareness a lot. Understand yourself. What is it that gives you energy? What is it that restores you when you are depleted? And then make sure you are doing that and be intentional. You know, it's like you're going into warfare. Go in with exactly what you need so that when this person kind of removes from you, you still have. All right. And then the third thing I would say is, not only do you need to add, when you have received their negative energy, you need to find ways to dispense of it. So you need to be very active to find ways to actually get rid of that. I like to tell this story. I don't know if I finished my 1 minute, but allow me to finish with this story. I like to say how my husband plays squash. And one of the things that he says is, when he's on the squash court, if you know squash, you hit the ball pretty hard against the wall. When he's on the squash court, sometimes that ball is his customer. That customer that has just caused him so much stress. And by the time he's hit the ball a few times, he's got rid of that, you know, that tension that has come about as a result of his customer. Now, he doesn't say this, but I suspect sometimes that ball is his wife. After he's hit it a few times, he's able to come home, and you know, you need to find ways to expend of that energy. Number one, model the behavior you want. Number two, understand what replenishes you so that you have more to give. And number three, know how you can get rid of that negative energy that you've received from this leader who has no emotional intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mucha. Thanks, Elizabeth. Thanks, Dr. Karanja. Thank you so much. Will give just a quick few nuggets that I'm certainly taking away, and I think some of our participants will also agree with, is starting with, yes, we have emotions. Let's recognize them. Let's heighten our self-awareness so that we are able to regulate. I think there were definite tools of how we can go about doing managing self-awareness, which is around, you know, we must be able to test how we're feeling, you know, like a petrol gauge. Are we low? Where are we with this, with our energy levels to be able to accommodate stressful situations and stressful emotions? And sometimes this may require that we need to do some self-reflection. We also need to replenish, because we can't give what we don't have. So it's important that in knowing ourselves and becoming self-aware, we also know when we're actually depleted, is the problem is not out there, it's actually inside us. So how do we fill our tank so that we're able to have more, be more expansive in our ability to navigate, as Mucha said, how to have the emotional agility to be able to deal with different emotions as they come. And also we need to be very open to feedback. As a very important thing. Dr. Karanja basically gave us a lot of insight into the 4 clusters of EQ. He also talked to us about the other competencies that is important to balance emotional intelligence, the physical intelligence, the mental, the spiritual, and financial. So all these work together to be able to help us navigate the subject of our discussion today, which is emotional intelligence. And Elizabeth gave us some very practical tools on how they have been very intentional as an organization to bring EQ into the organizational DNA, and also very important as a leader in her organization, that she was able to do personality tests to be able to understand who she is, what her bandwidth is, and also in that process also do it with a team so that they're able to know each other, understand what each person brings, and how we can all accommodate each other and build and work towards this idea of relationships. How do we develop relationships and trust that helps us build the organization that we want to build and help us achieve our goals at the same time. And with that, I want to say thank you very much. And we're going to hand over now to Absa, but we will start with a quick video from Absa, and then we will have our Absa host, Caroline Oyango, do the closing remarks and next steps. and then the next steps and closing. So with that, let me hand over, and thank you so much for your time today. And thank you to our panelists, Mucha, Elizabeth, and Dr. Stanley. Thank you so much. Over to you. The video first, and then we have Caroline to close us off.
Welcome to My SME Tools system in association with Absa, a way of running and managing your business easier and simpler by focusing on performance. Get top tips on how to quote, invoice, and getting paid. Learn how to write a business plan, how to raise funds, work out reports, and analysis of your business results. Be part of the SME entrepreneurial community, where you will make business connections, exchange information, learn from each other in vastly different stages in the business journey. My SME Tools is data sensitive and runs on any device from a PC, laptop, tablet, or smartphone. Find a business dashboard which has your income, expenses, and net profit for the month to date, helping you understand your business financial position in real time. Access to your business finances, as well as automated financial statements where you simply add an asset, investment, or loan. And great news for Absa customers. The platform is free till 2021. So get going and sign on to www.mysmetools.com.
Thank you very much. A very excellent conversation tapping on emotional intelligence for us to realize our best outcomes for ourselves and others. Allow me to really thank Mucha, Dr. Karanja, and our very own Elizabeth for sharing your insights on how to navigate within emotional intelligence. It was indeed a fabulous session from where I sit. I would also like to thank Coco from Gresham Michelle Trust for moderating this session for us. Thank you very much, and also extend a thank you to our Head of Learning and Development, Mumbi, for opening this session for us. I would like to take this opportunity also to thank the team that is behind the scenes that has done an excellent job in realizing this webinar for us, and to also thank our participants who joined in for this very powerful and excellent session. Today was our 8th webinar session for our SME customers, and I'm sure that a lot of you have been jotting down the notes from this session, and I'd like to give you assurance that it was recorded, as earlier alluded by Coco. So we will have this on our YouTube. Please tune in for you to sort of have a recap, because this, I believe, was a session that will totally add you value, and it's worth running this again. For those who have further questions and would like us to assist you further, we do appeal to you to reach us with our business club email, which is businessclub.ke@absa.africa for further questions, so that we can reach out to you. I know there was the issue about the toolkit. For those of you who'd like to get that, as soon as we get it from Dr. Karanja, we will extend it to all the participants who are here on the request from the various participants. So we would also like to extend a thank you to our partners, Gresham Michelle Trust and Carol Mandy, for bringing us exciting guests within the various seminars that we've had, and we look forward to more partnerships with them, so that we can make sure that we help our business customers and our potential customers to navigate this pandemic, and of course to continue to grow their businesses in the future. So just some notification, we will have our next webinar on the 1st of September, which will be touching on fundraising. I believe something that will be powerful and an interest of many. We've got a lot of feedback from our customers saying that they would really like to understand how to raise funds. But before that, which is on the 1st of September, we will have a mentoring session on this very same topic, which is emotional intelligence, intelligence, so that you can ask more questions and we deliberate more on the how. How do you do this, and how do you build the skills, and how do you sort of use the tools that are required? So I would like to extend an invitation again to all of you that on the 25th, which is next Tuesday, we will have the mentoring session, and on the 1st of September, we will have the next webinar that will be touching on the fundraising. For those of you who are not our customers, we would definitely be happy to have you join our Absa family. And we would like to let you know that it's a very simple process. If you walk into any of our branches, we will be able to enable you to join the Absa family, and we see how we can walk you through your journey within the SME. As a token from us for our participants, if you join, if you're not currently an Absa customer, we will be availing all customers or business customers who join Absa with the toolkit, which the program will just run you a clip on that will enable you to navigate and also manage your businesses as you go along. So from us here, we would like to say thank you very much. Thank you for joining us for this session. I will take this opportunity to apologize for starting a little bit late and therefore running a little bit late beyond our 2:30 session. But I believe you will agree with me that this session was valuable. It will totally add you in terms of insight and capabilities on how to manage your businesses going forward. So we wish you well, we wish you God's blessings, and we pray that you observe the guidelines that are provided to protect yourself within this pandemic environment. So from us and the Absa family and our partners from Gracia Michelle, we say God bless you and thank you very much for joining the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.